Coming up, trying to keep my cool. Trying to keep my cool here and not throw a chair through the window as I give you my top 6 picks for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. 14 are nominated, and like many of you, I am livid. I'm pissed that one of these artists has been eligible for induction for over 30 years and is not in. He only happens to be the blueprint that God created for the perfect rock singer and a favorite of legends like Robert Plant and Freddie Mercury. And there's another band on here that's nominated as 2 bands in one nomination, kind of confusing, and another who is one of the most distinct voices in history. Clear back in 2014, a legend yelled out his support in concert for the Hall to recognize him, but it would take 11 years, and now this artist has passed. I'm going to get through a tough one here next on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you remember watching TV for hours, waiting for that one music video to come on MTV, you're going to dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. Make sure to subscribe below right now, click the white button, and click the bell so you know when stuff comes out. Also, check out ProfessorofRock.com. I'm telling you, you got to check it out. We got some great stuff going up there, including a live stream next week. So today, I'm going to give you my top 6 picks, my 6 picks for the 14 artists who were nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I'm going to tell you why I'm livid about several snubs, as well as a call to action to vote in maybe the biggest omission in rock history. And I'm also wearing a shirt of a band who should definitely be in as well. Anyway, so let's kick off our Hall of Fame episode with a recognition of my nomination for my number 6 pick, the Black Crowes. Black Crowes formed in '84 in Atlanta as Mr. Crow's Garden. 5 years later, they changed their name to the Black Crowes, and they really hit their stride in 1990 when several music publications, including Rolling Stone magazine, named them the new band of the year. The reason I'm picking these guys is keeping Southern rock alive. They kicked rock and roll up a notch a full year before Nirvana came onto the scene, saving it from the posers and the dance pop and the boy bands and all the stuff going on in the late 80s. I love the Black Crowes, especially their first couple albums like it's Shake Your Money Maker, one of the best albums of the 90s, the Southern Harmony and Musical Companion in America. Along the way, they gave us some incredible music, including She Talks to Angels, a song that Chris Robinson and his younger brother wrote about a goth girl that was fascinated with heroin. There's also the rousing rendition of Otis Redding's Hard to Handle. And the Black Crowes version of the song, it was so great. It was so passionate. It just sounded like a brand new song. Many fans up to this day don't even know it's a cover. And the gritty soulfulness of Chris Robinson made him one of the most dynamic vocalists on the music scene, his brother Rich. Awesome. Definitely deserved to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. 5, my number 5 pick, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, got a band that was a pivotal part of an important period of the rock era. Soundgarden definitely deserves a spot in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. How they're not already in is news to me. It played a huge role in shaping the so-called grunge movement with their one-of-a-kind mix of alternative, metal, and even a smidgen of punk, that attitude. Their influence went beyond just the underground scene, and they broke into the mainstream, leaving a lasting mark on rock music. Black hole sun, won't you come? Chris Cornell, truly one of the greatest voices ever. Now, he formed Soundgarden in Seattle in 1984 with Hiro Yamamoto and Kim Thayil, naming the band after an art installation at Seattle Sandpoint. At first, Cornell handled both drums and vocals, but in 1985, they brought in drummers Scott Sundquist, so Chris could solely focus on just being the front man. Chris Cornell's voice, pure power. One of the most incredible that you'll ever hear. Together with his band's complex rhythms and unconventional tunings, Soundgarden carved out a unique spot in Seattle's already iconic music scene. Even though they started out in the underground scene, Soundgarden broke through to the mainstream and made history as the first grunge band to release a major label album. I mean, Chris Cornell, he had it all. He had the fiery spirit of Freddie Mercury. He had the raw magnetic energy of Robert Plant and the kind of vocal range that could go toe-to-toe with his close friend Jeff Buckley. But what truly made him stand out was the soul that he poured into every note. Something rare, especially for a singer often tied to the grunge-drenched, brooding Seattle scene of the early 90s. A perfect example of that came in 1994 with The Day I Tried to Live. This song begins with a bluesy, mournful moan. It builds slowly until it erupts into a spine-chilling shriek. I mean, his vibrato, so powerful, it felt like it could shatter glass and block out the sun. It was a kind of moment that only someone with Chris's heart and soul could pull off. Chris's talent was just so undeniable, and a posthumous induction would be a fitting tribute to a man who left us far too soon. Chris Cornell tragically passed away in 2017 at just 52 when he took his own life, but his music and legacy will keep echoing for generations to come. Of course, in 1994, Soundgarden reached the height of their power with Super Unknown, an album that became nothing short of legendary, selling over 9 million copies worldwide. It was a massive success, but it was more than just the numbers. It was a moment in rock history, one that we all turn to. The album gave the world Black Hole Sun, a track that would go on to become a modern rock standard, even though the band didn't think much of it. I thought it was a decent 4-single at best. Of course, it became their signature song. This song's haunting sound, truly haunting. His powerful presence influenced virtually every band that followed, especially those with a drum kit and a distortion pedal. Super Unknown wasn't just an album, it was a blueprint for the future of rock. I don't think we quite got there, but it was there. The influence of Soundgarden, though, it's everywhere, from nu metal acts like Deftones to prog bands like Tool and alternative rock favorites like Queens of the Stone Age. But after Cornell's death, the tributes, they came pouring in, not just from the obvious sources like Pearl Jam's Eddie Vedder, Metallica, and Foo Fighters, but from all corners of the music world, and it's time for them to be inducted. Coming in at number 4, I have to go with a band with a storied history that's actually nominated, kind of weird, as 2 bands, Joy Division / New Order. Shrouded by the tragic life and death of tortured frontman Ian Curtis and the precursor to an act that was one of the most influential of the 80s for sure, Joy Division absolutely deserves a spot in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Joy Division New Order. They were pioneers, shaping post-punk and paving the way for the new wave era. Their music was groundbreaking. Their influence, it's undeniable, and they inspired countless artists. It's just time they got recognition. Joy Division was Ian Curtis, Gillian Gilbert, Stephen Morris, Peter Hook, Bernard Sumner. The band first called themselves Warsaw, inspired by the haunting track Warszawa from David Bowie, his then album Low. But their excitement over that name was short-lived. A London-based group called Warsaw Pact had already staked a claim to something kind of similar, so it forced them to reconsider. Searching for a new identity, they turned to literature, drawing their next name, Joy Division, directly from the 1953 novella The House of Dolls. Joy Division played a huge role in shaping the buzzing Manchester music scene in the late 70s, really leading the charge for the post-punk movement, like I said. And then after the tragic death of Ian Curtis, the remaining members mourned the loss of their friend. But you know what? Instead of crying and giving up or going their separate ways, they formed New Order, virtually the same band without Ian. They actually kept the spirit of Joy Division alive while pushing into fresh musical directions. The music of Joy Division, characterized by Ian Curtis's haunting vocals and the band's sparse yet powerful instrumentation, that became a cornerstone of the new wave movement of the early 80s. I mean, the story of Joy Division, that started in 1976 when Ian Curtis, Peter Hook, Stephen Morris, and Bernard Sumner witnessed the now legendary Sex Pistols show at Manchester's Free Trade Hall. Man, there's a lot of great people at that concert. That night sparked something in each of them. And soon after, they put the band together. Their sound was just raw, blending the edgy energy of punk with the deep introspective themes of love and loss and pleasure and pain. There's a journalist named John Savage that said it best. He once described Ian Curtis's lyrics as capturing the underlying reality of a society in turmoil. Perfectly said. A perfect reflection of the emotional weight that Curtis conveyed in his haunting vocals. Those deep, intense lyrics, backed by sharp guitars, melodic bass lines, and reverberating drum beats, they turned abstract emotions into something that you could almost touch. But as they were about to embark on their 1980 US tour, shortly before the release of their second and final album, tragedy struck. In a heartbreaking twist, Ian Curtis took his own life, making the dark themes of their music feel even more real and painfully poignant. Ian Curtis had severe epilepsy and depression that affected him in so many ways, including the way he moved around on stage in front of a live audience. As 79 and 80 wore on, his health steadily declined. The stress of constant performances and touring only worsened his condition. And actually, his seizures grew more frequent and intense. Now, despite being diagnosed, Ian didn't take the advice to ease up on some habits that he had. He just kept drinking and smoking and sticking to his irregular sleeping pattern, things that were strongly discouraged for someone in his condition. The medications he was given only seemed to add to his struggles, bringing along a host of side effects that included severe mood swings. Ian Curtis's personality began to shift, a change that didn't go unnoticed by his wife, his family, and his in-laws, or bandmates. They saw him become more distant, especially in the company of his wife, growing quieter and more withdrawn. In April of 79, when his daughter was born, the weight of his illness became even more apparent. His condition had progressed to the point where he couldn't hold his baby girl without the risk of accidentally harming her. The toll of it all was becoming impossible to ignore. Ian Curtis's fragile state wasn't just fueled by his health. His crumbling marriage to Deborah Woodruff played a major role as well. Deborah later revealed the heartbreaking moment when she discovered her husband's body. Now, at first she thought he was still alive, until her eyes fell on the rope around his neck, and the reality of his death just sunk in. She also shared that Ian had confided in her many times about his belief that he wouldn't live much longer than his early 20s. He just had a sense of darkness that seemed to hang over him, and he didn't shy away from expressing it, especially in the music. Isolation. Just before his death, Lindsay Reed, who knew Ian well, said that he told her that with his epilepsy, he didn't think he could continue performing live with the band. And on top of that, he felt that with the release of Closer, Joy Division, they'd reached their artistic peak. It wasn't until after Ian's tragic passing that his bandmates understood the depth of his inner turmoil. They realized that many of his lyrics, songs like In a Lonely Place, Disorder, and especially Love Will Tear Us Apart, one of the most iconic songs ever, those were all cries for help. But unfortunately, it was just too late. After Ian Curtis's untimely demise, the remaining members of Joy Division carried on. They recruited keyboardist Gillian Gilbert and they formed New Order with basically the same band. Freshly inspired by the stylings of electronic groundbreakers like Kraftwerk and dance pop genius Giorgio Moroder, the group fully adopted the use of synthesizers and pulsing dance floor beats, creating a new synth pop sound with the song Blue Monday, which the band wrote as a joke at first. How does it feel? They put it together as an encore song when during a live show, the band would plan to leave the stage and let the song do the encore and play and give them a rest. And then secondly, to test out a drum machine. It was a smash and still the best-selling 12-inch single of all time, even though the band actually lost money on it due to the elaborate packaging of the single. How about that? So let's talk about my number 3 pick, a nominee that left many shocked when he was announced, because, many of us assumed he was already in. I'm, of course, talking about the Nels and Gasoline voice of legend Joe Cocker.
You are so beautiful.
It's hard to think of an artist that put more heart and intestinal grit into his performances than Joe Cocker. His seminal live performance at Woodstock alone should get him inducted into the Hall of Fame. He deserves it. He should also get special recognition for his originality. Joe had one of the most distinctive voices of the rock era. It was incredible how he could take someone else's song and turn it into something completely different. And nobody could top it after that. His voice, it's just unbelievable. He conjured that magic up over and over again, starting with his interpretation of the Beatles song With a Little Help from My Friends, his breakout single that exploded into the top 5 throughout Europe with a crowning #1 achievement in the UK, the Netherlands, and Sweden. A remake that even the Beatles all had to admit blew past their original. How many Beatles songs can you say that about? None. That brilliant reimagining of the Beatles track led to his unique version of Traffic's Feeling All Right, and of course Bobby Sharp's Unchain My Heart that Ray Charles first recorded. Yes, sir. And of course, with a little help from my friends, became the theme of Wonder Years. He won a Grammy Award in 1983 for Up Where We Belong, one of the greatest duets ever. His duet with Jennifer Warnes, it was the theme song for the movie An Officer and a Gentleman, a #1 hit. Then in 93, Cocker got a nod for the Brit Award for Best British Male Solo Artist. Fast forward to 2007, and his hometown honored him with a bronze Sheffield Legends plaque. The very next year, he was awarded an OBE for his contributions to music. Well deserved. Just as he deserved to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a long time ago. Hey, my endorsement is not nearly as influential as the crusades to get Joe inducted from the likes of Billy Joel and Paul McCartney. Paul wrote a very powerful and heartfelt letter about why Joe should be in the Hall of Fame. I'll link to it below. It's a classic example of his impact with his peers, even the most elite members of rock royalty. We also have to make special note of the Mad Dogs and Englishmen period of Joe's career, which was another strong example of the respect the artist community had for Joe Cocker. The group that came together during that time was a massive ensemble, over 20 musicians strong, and it was an eclectic mix for sure. Pianist and bandleader Leon Russell was at the helm, joined by 3 drummers, Jim Gordon, Jim Keltner, and Chuck Blackwell. Of course, backing vocals handled by Rita Coolidge and Claudia Lanier, among many others. On September 17th, 2014, during a concert at Madison Square Garden, Billy Joel took a moment to acknowledge his friend Joe Cocker, who he'd impersonated many times because of his love for this man. With a heavy heart, Billy shared with the crowd that Cocker was not doing very well right then, and he took the opportunity to endorse him for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I think he should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm amazed that he's not yet.
Billy then went on to perform a heartfelt tribute singing With a Little Help from My Friends.
All I need
And just a few months later, on December 22nd, 2014, Joe passed away from lung cancer at the age of 70 in Crawford, Colorado. So the Rock Hall was, of course, 11 years too late. Not surprising, but what a joke. All right, coming in at number 2 on my picks for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I've got the intrepid Billy Idol. Now, Billy emerged from the London punk scene as the lead singer of Generation X, a band that blended punk's energy with retro pop and rock influences. You know, no one gave Billy anything. He earned everything he got from hard work, calculated vision, and an unrelenting drive to reach the apex of the music industry. Just total success in America. Billy absolutely deserves a spot in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Start again. He didn't just make great music. He helped bring punk rock into the mainstream, all while rocking an unmistakable image and sound when it comes to rock. Plus, his influence and popularity have stood the test of time. It's a nice day for a white wedding. You think about it. Billy Idol is the epitome of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So, of course, it took the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame years to nominate him. It's about time he got this recognition. Like I said, Billy, he's the very definition of a rock icon. His image, it's indelible in the rock era with a body of work that includes timeless classics like White Wedding, Dancing with Myself, Eyes Without a Face, one of the most haunting songs ever, and one of the ultimate rock anthems, Rebel Yell. I mean, MTV is not MTV without Billy Idol's image. He's one of the most resilient icons in music as well. Someone who faced personal battles. He survived a motorcycle accident that should have taken his life. And yet here we are in 2025 and Billy's still out there constantly touring, putting out new music all the time. Having met him, I can honestly say I don't think he'll ever stop until his body simply can't keep up. Even then, I don't know what force could truly hold this guy back. The interview with him was one of my favorites. His voice is unmistakable. Like I said, his charisma undeniable. And that iconic look, the platinum hair, the black leather, the signature sneer. Like I said, the perfect image for MTV. When you picture a rock icon, Billy Idol could very well be the first face that pops into your head. That's why Workday used him for all those commercials about being a rock star and what it means to be one.
You know what it takes to be a rock star?
I've trashed hotel rooms in 43 countries.
His sound, his unique blend of rock and roll, the soul of a crooner, something that still resonates today and will forever because Billy's kind of artistry and showmanship, it just can't be replicated. Now we get to my number 1 pick, and it's no surprise. This one is a no-brainer, and one that frankly makes me livid. Pisses me off that they weren't first ballot, or at least he was. This band is only led by the man that every legendary rock singer calls a major influence. A frontman that Robert Plant and Ann Wilson of Heart and Freddie Mercury and Sammy Hagar and dozens of others who are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame call their favorite singer. I'm of course talking about Bad Company, helmed by Paul Rodgers. Bad Company, and I can't deny. In my opinion, the most glaring omission in rock history. At least the most glaring omission since Rush, who actually had to wait 13 years after they were first eligible for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, it's ridiculous. Imagine taking the raw, soulful vocals of Free, the rock and roll grit of Mott the Hoople, and the musical depth of King Crimson, blending them together, and you got the baddest combination, the mighty Bad Company. Before I get too far down the road on their history, You think about it for a minute. Robert Plant and Freddie Mercury, who were always listed as the greatest rock singers of all time, their favorite singer of all time is Paul Rodgers. Paul Rodgers truly was the blueprint that the man upstairs made for a rock singer. And he's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Anyway, formed in the Westminster section of London in 1973, Bad Company pretty much wrote the playbook for rock supergroups. You know, where musicians from well-known bands team up to create something fresh and wildly successful. They proved that blending talent from different backgrounds could lead to something much bigger than the sum of its parts. Bad Company wasn't just any old rock band. It was a true supergroup, with Paul Rodgers and Simon Kirke from Free, Mick Ralphs from Mott the Hoople, and Boz Burrell from King Crimson. And with Zeppelin's manager at the helm, their combined talents forged a sound that was both powerful and timeless, striking a chord with audiences and leaving a truly lasting mark on rock and music. It's really, truly unbelievable how many prolific rock vocalists have named Paul Rodgers as the greatest singer of the rock era. Like I said, Freddie Mercury made that statement. So did John Mellencamp. So did Mick Jagger. Even Robert Plant. I regard Ann Wilson as one of the greatest vocalists, my personal favorite female vocalist ever. And this is what she told me about Paul Rodgers when a record label told her she could pick her duet partner, anybody out there, to duet on a song that they were trying to entice her to do. I've read that there were several different vocalists that were possibly going to sing the duet with you.
Yeah, they asked me to sing the song, and they gave me my choice. They said, in a perfect world, which man would you like to sing with? And I went, Paul Rodgers.
Yeah.
You know, without even skipping a beat.
I mean, arguably the greatest singer in rock and roll storied history, the favorite of Robert Plant, Freddie Mercury, Ann Wilson, and eligible for induction for 30 years, and now just getting the call. It really does. It pisses me off. At this point, Paul Rodgers, he should be a 3-timer in the Hall. For Free, Bad Company, and as a solo artist. Anyway, Bad Company's discography, it's seriously impressive. Kicking off with their powerhouse self-titled debut in 1974. I mean, that album's just a banger. Banger after banger, really. Side 1, that one starts out the top 5 smash, Can't Get Enough, then rolls into Rock Steady, then Ready for Love, and closes with Don't Let Me Down.
And rock steady, yeah, for love. Oh, baby, I'm ready for love. Don't let me down.
And they didn't stop there. Straight Shooter in 75, Run with Pack in 76, Burning Sky in 77, and Desolation Angels in 79. That kept the momentum going, packed with killer tracks all across the board.
I'm running with the pack. What's your name? Oh, what's your name? Youngblood.
Bad Company always delivered full, no-fluff records, just solid rock through and through. Bad Company undeniably deserves a place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. With their powerful blend of hard rock and blues, they not only defined an era, but they also influenced countless bands that followed. From the unparalleled voice of Paul Rodgers to the iconic guitar riffs, Bad Company created timeless anthems that define the spirit of rock and roll. Their music still resonates with fans old and new, and their impact on rock music is just undeniable. It's time to frickin' give them the recognition they've earned for shaping the sound and legacy of rock and roll. Hey, there's no smoke without fire, so let's run with the pack, so to speak, and let the committee see our passion for Paul Rodgers and Bad Company. I'm asking you to help us. Click on the link below to give Bad Company a vote to get them inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, as well as some other ones. It's time to honor every legend's favorite rock singer. Vote for Bad Company. Click right up here to do it, or the link below in the description. Well, those are my picks. And I'm still livid that the Hall hasn't inducted Boston, who has the biggest selling debut album of the 70s and saved rock and roll in 1976. And of course, my personal favorite, the Smiths. That's a story for another day, though. So please go vote. We got to get Paul Rodgers in. I'm going to put this all across our socials, all across everything. If I have any influence, which I really don't, but you do as the fans, let's get Paul Rodgers in there. Let's click, let's vote, let's make it happen. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe below. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Also, in the comments below, let us know what do you think what are your picks? What's your ballot for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Who do you think should be put in next? Let's have a great discussion. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.